The flicker started on a Tuesday. Not dramatic, not painful, just a shimmer of light behind my right eye, like someone had waved a sparkler in the corner of a dark room. It lasted 3 seconds, maybe 4, long enough for me to pause mid-sentence while reviewing biofluid samples in the lab, long enough for the girl next to me to say, "You good?" I nodded. Because what else do you say when your brain twitches but no one else sees it? That night, I brought it up at dinner. Clarice, my mother, licensed dermatologist, TED Talk alum, minor influencer with major opinions, was plating roasted salmon over quinoa when I said it. I think something's off. I had this flicker behind my eye, and it's not the first time. She didn't miss a beat. Hormones. That's what she said, just that one word. Then she reached for the lemon slices like she hadn't just dismissed my body in one syllable. I glanced at Jules, my father, chief commercial officer at Viro Biogenics. He didn't even look up from his watch. "Sleep more," he muttered. "You kids live in screens and drama." They moved on to wine pairings and dry cleaning. I moved on to silence. But the flicker didn't move on. By Thursday, it came back. Twice. Once during my morning lab prep. Once while I was brushing my teeth. And this time it came with a hum, a low buzzing pressure behind my jaw. I Googled nothing. I asked no one. I just started writing it down. Time, date, what I was doing, how long it lasted, what I felt. My notebook wasn't pink or floral. It was black, slim, waterproof. Something I'd bought in sophomore year for marine biology notes. I hadn't expected to fill it with quiet collapse. By Sunday, the flicker had a friend. Numbness. 3 fingers, right hand. Not full-on dead, just distant. Like holding a pencil through winter gloves. I showed Clarice while she was doing her evening skincare routine. "I can't feel these," I said, holding up my hand. She glanced. 1 second. "Your posture's trash, pinched nerve, sit straight." Then she turned back to the mirror. "Also, you're pale, eat something green tomorrow." I watched her press retinol into her cheekbones like my nerves weren't fraying. I wanted to scream, but I was raised on silence. So instead, I turned, left the room, and wrote down another date. And somewhere between the flickers and the numbness, I realized this wasn't just oversight. It was intentional. They weren't missing the signs, they were deleting them. I didn't know what it was yet, but I knew what it wasn't: my imagination. I didn't go to a doctor, not at first. I went to a kiosk. A smooth, glowing panel tucked behind Trinity Tech's rec center, proudly labeled, Neuro AI Instant Screening. No wait, no judgment. Lie number 1. I tapped my ID card. The screen blinked awake. "Welcome, Kaia Win. Please describe your concern." I typed carefully. Flickering vision, right side right hand numbness, 3 fingers persistent pressure behind right eye duration, 6 weeks worsening, the screen processed. Then responded. Low concern, common symptoms. Cause, hormonal fluctuations, sleep disruption, or psychosomatic stress. Recommendation, hydration, 8 HRS sleep journaling. No further action required. Health score, 87% stable. It even printed a receipt, like it was giving me a souvenir from a place I was never supposed to visit. I sat outside the kiosk for 20 minutes holding that receipt like it might apologize. It didn't. When I got home that evening, I didn't tell my parents. I just added the receipt to my notebook, tucked behind the first page. Underneath it, I wrote, AI thinks I'm fine. My body disagrees. The next day, the flickering worsened. I was slicing avocado in the kitchen when the knife slipped, not because I was clumsy, but because I didn't feel it. My grip had vanished for half a second. Clarice was across the counter, stirring her collagen powder into mineral water. You're dropping things now? Maybe slow down on caffeine, Kaia. I didn't answer, because I knew the real problem wasn't caffeine, it was her. 3 days later, I went to the Boulder Street Free Clinic. I didn't tell anyone. It smelled like bleach and wet carpet, but the nurse called my name like it mattered. Win, Kaia. Inside, doctor. Norel, gray braid, ink-stained fingers, asked questions no screen had asked. She didn't interrupt. She didn't minimize. She just listened. Then she pressed her fingers gently to the base of my skull. "Do you feel that?" "Yes." "How long has that pressure been there?" "Since November." Her face didn't show panic, but it shifted, slightly. "You need an MRI, possibly a full scan. I'm writing you a referral." She handed me a paper copy, her name signed in pen, ink, real, tangible, like her belief in me. When I got home that night, the referral was already in the trash. Clara stood by the kitchen island, wine glass in one hand, the folded paper in the other, creased like it had been crumpled, then smoothed out again. "You lied," she said. "You went behind us. I didn't deny it. I needed someone to listen. So you sneak into a clinic that caters to drama queens and addicts. What's next, Kaia? Posting symptoms on social media for likes." Jules walked in during the last sentence. He didn't ask what was happening. He just said, "No more coverage. If she wants fake problems, she can pay for fake treatment." That night, I wrote 2 sentences in my notebook in bold. The system didn't fail me. IT was programmed to do this. And underneath, so was my family. I had a referral, I had a warning, but they had power, and they used it not to help me but to delete me. It happened on a Wednesday. I was in Lab B6 reviewing DNA polymerase assays for midterm project deadlines. No music, no distractions, just the steady rhythm of code, chemicals, and controlled air conditioning, until the flicker returned. But this time it brought company. First came the heat behind my right eye like a fuse had been lit somewhere inside my skull. Then sound dropped out, everything muffled. Pressure rose, my fingers twitched, and then stillness. I don't remember falling, I remember hitting. Back, elbow, skull, and then cold, chemical-clean tiles on my face and the taste of metal in my mouth. Someone shouted, someone ran. "Kaia, Kaia!" That was Linda, the lab assistant, the only one who ever noticed when I stayed late. Her hands were on my shoulders, steady, present, more present than my own body. "You fainted," she whispered. "Stay with me." Paramedics arrived 5 minutes later, 2 voices, 4 gloved hands, blood pressure cuff, oxygen sensor, mild chaos, professional detachment. Vitals unstable, possible neuro-involvement. No one asked about my parents, not yet, that part always comes later. They wheeled me out through the side entrance. No dramatic exit, no crowd, just fluorescent lights and silence. Inside the ambulance, I stared at the ceiling, trying to remember how to breathe like a person instead of a problem. One EMT glanced at me. First time fainting. I didn't answer, because it wasn't fainting. It was my body saying, enough, and I wasn't going to dilute that into a symptom they could dismiss again. At Boulder General, things moved fast. Vitals, blood, reflex checks, but something in the nurse's face changed when she read my intake notes. "She's had visual flickers, hand numbness, how long?" She didn't ask me. She asked my chart. Because once it's in writing, people start to believe. Then the curtain pulled back, and in stepped Dr. Liam Hooper, neurology rotation. Quiet tone, clipboard not tablet, he introduced himself. "I've reviewed your intake. There are some things I'd like to check further. Would you prefer to speak privately?" My eyes locked on his. I nodded, just once. Clarice objected. "We're her legal guardians. This is unnecessary." But Dr. Hooper didn't argue. He just quoted protocol. "Privacy is standard in neurological assessments if the patient is over 18. She hated that. They stepped out. He closed the curtain. And for the first time in months, I didn't have to defend my right to exist inside my own body. He asked clear questions. I gave clear answers. Flickering vision 7 weeks. Numbness right side. Drop in grip strength. 1 ignored referral. 1 destroyed. He didn't say sorry. He didn't say that's awful. He said, "We'll scan now." That sentence landed like a rescue rope. 30 minutes later, I was inside the MRI tube. Cold table. Head secured. Noise like construction underwater. I closed my eyes and thought of nothing. Because for once, silence was helping me, not hiding them. When it was done, they wheeled me back to observation room 3, curtains half closed, machines blinking quietly. Dr. Hooper came in later with a monitor. No words, just screen. He turned it toward me, and there it was, a dark mass, small but pressing against the brainstem, exactly where it hurt, exactly what I'd tried to describe. "This," he said calmly, "is why you fainted. It's not imaginary, it's not anxiety, it's compression." I looked at him, then at the screen, then back. "So I'm not crazy," I whispered. He didn't smile, he didn't flinch. "You were never crazy, you were unheard." I didn't collapse because I was fragile. I collapsed because I was silenced. The image was impossible to ignore. A shadow, perfectly rounded, pressing against the pale map of my brainstem. I didn't cry, I didn't gasp. I just stared like I'd been waiting for someone to finally put my fear into pixels. "How long has this been growing?" I asked. Dr. Hooper's voice stayed steady. "Too long. These symptoms, flicker vision, hand numbness, they don't appear overnight. This should have been imaged months ago." The word months dug under my skin like a hook. Then the curtain opened. Clarice and Jules walked in, eyes scanning the screen, not me. "What's this?" Jules asked sharply. "A shadow," I said. "The thing you said was in my head." Clarice's tone turned brittle. "Dr. Hooper, we didn't approve an MRI." "I did," he replied. "Because your daughter's health doesn't wait for paperwork." She stared at him like he'd just broken a law. And maybe he had, but not the kind I cared about. That night, I was discharged with follow-up instructions, but no treatment plan yet. Insurance authorization, surgical consult, layers of delay that felt like a slow erasure. When we got home, the silence was heavier than any argument. Jules dropped the car keys on the counter. "You embarrassed us today," he muttered. Embarrassed, not endangered, not ill, embarrassed. I didn't answer. I went straight to my room, locked the door, and pulled out my black notebook. On a fresh page, I wrote, "MRI brainstem compression, February 19, confirmed." Underneath, I taped the copy of the scan Dr. Hooper had slipped me. Not the official printout, just a quick photo on a medical tablet. But it was proof, and proof was better than permission. 2 nights later, I overheard them. Through the thin drywall, Clarice's voice. "If she believes she's sick, she'll make herself sick. We can't let her spiral." And Jules, "We'll handle this privately, quietly. We can't have her name tied to weakness." Weakness, that's what they called a tumor. The next morning, I started building a folder on my laptop. Scan photo, symptom journal typed. Dates of dismissals word for word, a copy of the AI kiosk receipt, and a single title in bold, "Not hormones." By the end of that week, I stopped asking for their help. I stopped mentioning the pain. I stopped pretending silence was safety. Instead, I learned how silence can be strategy. They called it hormones, I called it evidence, and evidence never lies. It didn't happen in a courtroom. It didn't start with a lawyer in a suit. It started with a clipboard. Her name was Raina Cho, hospital patient advocate. Office buried in the far end of the neurology wing, past billing, past imaging, past all the places you go when people believe you. She wore boots with worn-out soles and spoke like every word had to earn its place. "You asked for a printed record of your scan." "Yes. And you'd like your file locked from parental access going forward." "Also, yes." She didn't flinch. She just nodded, flipped a page, and said, "Tell me everything." I started talking, but I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just laid it out chronologically, clinically, cold, first flicker, kiosk diagnosis, destroyed referral, hospital dismissal. The scan, the voices I overheard. Then I pulled out the notebook, placed it between us like a silent co-counsel. She opened it, page by page, her eyes steady. When she looked back at me, her voice was quiet. "You've been building a timeline." I nodded. I didn't know what I was building at first, just collecting in case no one believed me. She tapped the notebook gently. "This is more than a journal, this is pre-litigation documentation." That was the first whisper, not "let's sue," not burn it all down, just a shift in language from victim to witness. Raina slid a folder across the desk. Inside, HIPAA lock request forms, a report template for patterned neglect, contact info for a civil rights attorney, her name, Hannah Richter. "If you ever want to escalate," Raina said, "you won't be starting from zero." I stared at the folder. It didn't burn, it didn't glow, but it felt like power. That night, I didn't argue with my parents. I passed the salt. I complimented the lasagna. I let them believe I was shrinking again. But upstairs, I scanned every page of my notebook, uploaded it to the cloud, created a password-protected folder, named it Kaia Y Case 001, because this wasn't about if anymore, it was about when. They thought they'd silenced me, but I was never quiet, I was just collecting. It arrived on a Tuesday. 3:12 p.m., no warning, no subject line, just a voice memo from Noor, my cousin, 17, sharp, observant, always on the fringe of family drama. She never texted without a reason. "Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't know who else to send this to." The audio began with background noise, silverware clinking, idle chatter, someone laughing through their nose, then a voice, Clarice. "If you let her think it's real, it becomes real." Sweet, controlled, coded in concern, then another voice, male, Uncle Griffin. "She thinks she has a brain tumor now. Next week it'll be a heart condition. Drama must be genetic." Laughter, then silence. Then a final line from Clarice, quieter but clear. "She thrives on the attention. We shut it down early or we'll never get her back." I sat frozen, not angry, not even surprised, just still, because it was all there, every manipulation, every lie, every gaslight on tape. And for the first time, it wasn't me saying it, it was them. I forwarded the file to Raina, patient advocate doctor. Hooper, my private cloud folder, no commentary. No emotion, just evidence. Dr. Hooper replied within 10 minutes. "Do not respond to this directly. We'll proceed through official channels." Raina's reply was shorter. "Now we have everything." That night I didn't confront them. I didn't play the recording over dinner, didn't throw a single accusation. I sat at the same table, smiled when prompted, passed the salt. Because silence doesn't mean weakness. Silence gives them space to incriminate themselves. In my room, I printed the audio transcript, every word on its own page, line by line, not for drama, for deposition. I slipped the stack into my growing file. Then I labeled a flash drive, Exhibit A family statements. Later, Noor texted me again. "They confronted me, said I edited it, said I was turning on the family." I replied, "You didn't turn on the family, you just turned on the lights." The moment they stopped pretending, they exposed themselves. I just pressed play. It started with a commercial, low volume, soft lighting, faux compassion. I was folding receipts from my latest follow-up when the TV in the corner murmured. Up next on Heart of the Family, a courageous couple helping their daughter overcome health anxiety with tough love. I froze, not because of the show, but because of the faces. Clarice, Griffin, sitting on a pastel set, smiling, telling my story without me. "We didn't want to coddle her," Clarice said to the host. "Sometimes structure is the greatest form of love." And refusing to indulge hysteria, Griffin added, "is how we raised a stronger daughter." I didn't throw anything, I didn't yell, I took a screenshot. Then I called Dr. Hooper. He picked up on the second ring. "I saw it," he said. "Stay calm, don't engage, we'll handle it." The next call, Raina. I didn't need to explain. She was already at the hospital office printing everything. At 8:13 p.m., she met me outside the employee entrance with a sealed envelope. No logo, no return address. "We've sent this to the producers directly. No threats, just documentation." Inside, MRI scans, legal statement from Dr. Hooper, audio transcript from Noor's recording, timeline of denied care complaint draft for potential litigation. No fluff, no drama, just truth. By the next morning, the segment was pulled. No public announcement, just a quiet deletion. Then, a short post on the show's social media. Due to new information, we've chosen not to air this episode. We remain committed to truth and medical integrity. By lunch, 2 sponsors had pulled out. By dinner, Clarice's Instagram was on private. That night, I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I opened my laptop and uploaded one final file. Narrative intercepted. MP4. A 30-second screen recording of their broadcast teaser, side by side with a page from my medical report. The caption read, "I don't need airtime, I have archives." They broadcasted a lie. I sent in the correction, footnoted, time-stamped, and legally binding. It didn't end in court. It ended in an office with lemon-scented folders and a civil attorney who never once asked me to smile. Her name was Hannah Richter. Mid-40s. Sharp. Soft-spoken. She read faster than I spoke but never interrupted. We went through everything. MRI scans, audio recording the destroyed referral, my journal, the transcript of Heart of the Family's pulled segment, the silence that lasted 7 months. Documented in 73 pages, she closed the last folder, looked up and said, "This isn't just delayed care, it's obstruction, neglect, coordinated suppression of medical access." I didn't nod, I didn't flinch. "Do you want to pursue it formally?" I didn't hesitate. Yes, the case never made headlines, no microphones, no breaking news. But in July, a legal email arrived. Case settled, terms met. What they paid didn't matter. What it funded did. Classical, the Second Voice Foundation, registered. August 17th, purpose. Legal plus logistical aid for youth denied medical care due to familial control, religious interference, or image management. I funded the startup phase, filing, infrastructure, outreach, using money they once used to suppress me. Not hush money, seed money. The launch was quiet, intentional. A rented hall, folding chairs, program covers printed on ivory cardstock, at the bottom of each one. For the ones who were told it's just in your head. I stood behind the curtain with my speech notes clipped tight. Ria, our first volunteer coordinator, adjusted the mic one last time. Nor was in the front row, calm, arms crossed, face steady. Next to her, the silver-haired woman from House 24, still nameless, still present. I stepped onto the stage. I didn't read from my speech. I didn't need to. I'm not a survivor because I fought. I'm a survivor because I stopped waiting for permission to exist. Now, I live alone, small studio, a bit drafty, quiet, but the kind of quiet I choose. Not the kind that's forced to keep secrets. I still have some vertigo. My left ear is functionally gone, nerve damage from months of compression. But I've learned how to live with imbalance. More importantly, I no longer hide that I live with it. There's a folder in my desk, labeled, for court if needed. Inside, every file, dated, backed up. I don't check it often, but knowing it's there feels like armor. The last time I saw Clarice was at a grocery store. She smiled, the fake kind. "You look well," she said. I smiled back, the kind that doesn't need translation. "I am." Then I walked away, not out of spite, but because I was no longer waiting for her to see me. They tried to write me out of the story, so I started my own archive. Dear you, yes, you. The one who sat through dinner pretending your chest wasn't burning. The one who typed symptoms into search bars at 2 a.m., then deleted the tabs before anyone could see. The one who was told, "It's just stress. You're being dramatic. You always need something, don't you?" I know what they called you. Hypersensitive, delusional, broken, and worst of all, a liar. But listen to me carefully. Your pain is not a performance. Your body is not a stage. And your voice, even when it shakes, is not noise. It's evidence. It's warning. It's truth. I know how you learn to go silent. You watched the people who claim to love you twist your words until they snapped. You were punished for asking, mocked for insisting, frozen out when you wouldn't play along, so you shrunk. You smiled. You said, "I'm fine," and meant I don't feel safe enough to be honest. I know because I've done it too, but let me tell you what they don't want you to know. Silence doesn't make you safer. It makes you easier to ignore. And when they ignore you long enough, you start ignoring yourself. So write it down. Every symptom, every conversation, every eye roll, every you're overreacting, every torn report, every refusal. Turn your silence into files. Turn their doubt into timelines. Turn your fear into a folder. And then, when the time comes, you open it, and you say, "This is what I was trying to tell you. You just weren't listening." You don't need to scream, you don't need to beg, you don't need to be louder, you just need to be undeniable. So to the quiet ones, I see you, I believe you, and I built this foundation because of you. Because sometimes the second voice, the one you grow after being silenced, is the one that saves your life. Stay steady. Stay documenting. And when they ask for proof, you give them pages. Sincerely, Kaia Win founder, Second Voice Foundation, you weren't weak. You were being erased. Now you're the archivist.